the next major thing we're going to talk about is the sensors connection. And the sensors connection is over here, and it's the thing that maintains the connection to the Linux computer. So how it connects to the Linux computer is just through an HTTP request to get the data, and eventually we'll be able to use it to send data also through a post request, but for now it's just GET. So on the Linux computer there's a server running at this IP address and this port. So the IP address is hard-coded right now to 192.168.1.2 port 8090. So if you ever want to change that IP address or that port in the sensors connection, or you can either change it here or you can pass it in when you instantiate the connection object. But yeah, this is where the default happens. And then also here it checks if you pass in an invalid string, it'll actually revert back to this default option. So yeah, you need to make sure that it's actually a valid HTTP string that you're passing in, or else it'll just fail and go back to the old one and won't work. So yeah, this is just zeroing out the data, and then this function right here, subscribe, is where it actually grabs. It's a loop where it actually queries the server for whatever data. So you can see here the position data has this topic POS, and then I guess it's pose data POS, and then it checks the server for that data with a frequency of 18 hertz. And then you have the scan data, which is a much larger message, so it's only checking at 4 hertz frequency. And then yeah, there's this get data function, which is just a convenience function which automatically tells you whether or not, or it sets this updated variable so that you don't have to worry about if you're running some really complex data processing algorithm, you don't have to run it every time if there's not any new data. So this allows you to kind of store whether or not you got a new message or not. And anyway, so yeah, like I said, the subscribe function is where it actually connects to the server. So to connect to the server, what it's actually doing is it takes that the HTTP IP string with the port number, and then it adds a / and then it adds the topic. So the full address for the server, for example, would be really http://192.168.1.2 port 8090 / position. And that's just how the Linux server is set up. So the pose server is set up at that location. The LiDAR server is set up at the scan topic. And then this is just some function or some code to create the correct response. It has a timeout of ½ a second. So if it doesn't get a message in ½ a second, then it will automatically it'll know that it's not connected, and it'll set the connection to false. And you'll be able to see that in the terminal display in the view controller. But if it does connection, it just goes through and chugs along, and then it grabs the data as a JSON object directly from the server, and then just directly deserializes that, and it stores that in the object. So yeah, and then at the end it just tries to maintain that frequency of 18 hertz or 4 hertz or however many you pass in. So yeah, that's how that works. It just creates the HTTP request, grabs the data as a JSON string, and then deserializes it, which converts it from text data into actual binary objects that can be used by the program. And then finally it just continues on from there to store that deserialized object. So and in the in the double robot program where it's processing the sensor data, you can get a better feel for the structure. So it's storing it in the name of the topic, so sensors.connected at POS for the position or pose data, and then you have the sensor data at scan topic for the LiDAR data. And then we'll go over the scan data first. So the sensor data at scan has a ranges key, which stores a list of floats or doubles of the distances. It has this angle min key, which stores the smallest or the first angle in that list, and then it has that angle max key, which stores the highest angle in that list. And from those three things, you get a bunch of basically polar distances, and then you can convert that to Cartesian and then process it however you want. And then so the position structure or the pose data is a little bit different format. You have the pose, which is the data at the pose key, and then inside of the pose you have an orientation key, which has the quaternion in the format of this W, X, Y, and Z keys, each one storing one element of that quaternion rotation. And then you have inside of the pose data, you also have the position, which just has X, Y, Z value. I'm not even grabbing the Z value because I'm not using height for anything. I just care about X and Y in this situation. So that's the structure of that message. But yeah, the SensorsConnection is set up so that say if you add a new sensor, all you have to do is set up a new server on the Linux computer. Say it's like I don't know, like a Compass or something, and then automatically now you have access to that new Compass data, and this will automatically grab whatever JSON information is available at this IP address /Compass, and it'll grab it at 4 hertz, and it will be accessible to anything that uses the get data function. And then you can just get the whatever's returned from get data. You use the Compass key, and then you have that full deserialized JSON object available to you for use. So I'm just going to get rid of that for now. But so yeah, that's the sensors component of that, and that's really all we're using. We have this robot.math function, which kind of sets up a bunch of just math equations and convenience math functions that we can use for for some of the math that we have to do to make it all work. Yeah, it has Euclidean distance, it has angular distance, which just gives you the distance between any two angles pretty easily, and then yeah, there's a timer function and a bunch of other stuff. And yeah, we have this BLE central.swift function, or not function, this file here. It used to, or it contains a bunch of information for connecting to a Bluetooth server and then grabbing data from that, but it ended up not being very reliable, so it's currently completely not used at all in the system. We're completely just using the SensorsConnection with the HTTP connection to the Linux server for our data transmission. And then the last thing we have really to go over that's super critical is just this main.story